My name is Blacknell-Bradley, and I'm coming to you as a teacher, as a parent of two students, one who is in a TAG program and the other who receives special education services. And I am giving you tips on how to have a successful fourth quarter. You have already gone through a year that we've never seen before, and I'm sure you were giving tips to help you become successful. But in the fourth quarter, we know that we get to the end and we get tired, we get that spring fever. We've been in the house for a year at this point, and we just need a refresher. So I'm just going to give you a few tips to refresh your memory on how to be successful and to finish this school year strong. So the first thing I suggest is taking a deep breath. Let's do that together. You feel better already, right? I know I do. All right. So let's jump right into these tips. So these are just 3 tips that I'm going to go over with you. Want you to set a daily schedule. We want you to check assignments and your learning platforms, whether it's in Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams or whatever platform your school system is using this year. And I also want you to remember your rights and apply them. The fourth quarter is a great time for you to make sure that you are advocating for yourself and for your students. So we're going to take a deep dive into all of these tips. So when you're setting your schedule, make sure you have some screen breaks in there. Because we're doing a lot of virtual learning, we're sitting in front of the computer for extended periods of time. So at the end of your school day, always end with a screen break. What do you enjoy doing? You like reading, exercising, talk to someone, listen to music, have a healthy snack, do something that does not involve you sitting in front of your computer screen. We call these screen breaks, okay? It's just time for you to walk away from the screen, give your eyes a break, give your body a stretch, but you want to make sure that it's not something that requires you to sit in front of a screen. So try to stay away from video games that you may be playing or watching TikTok videos or watching TV. Do something that requires you to move, something that you enjoy doing. Go outside, go for a walk. Now is the perfect time for you to get outside and enjoy some of this weather. So after you've taken your screen break, now it's time to get back into your studying. Now, when it's time for you to study, try to study in 20-minute increments. You want to set a timer because it's so easy to get wrapped up into your studying. And you look up and it's 45 minutes later and you don't realize you've been sitting there for that long. So set your timer for about 20 minutes and study as much as you can, whether it's taking notes or completing an assignment, but try to stick to that 20 minutes. Now, if you find that when that timer goes off, you want to take a couple more minutes to finish something up, it's just not a good time, it's not a good stopping point, it's okay to take a couple more minutes. But once you finish up whatever that is, go ahead and get up and walk away and take maybe a 5-minute break, maybe go grab a drink of water, use the bathroom, but just do something so that you give yourself time to process everything that you've already learned and then dig back into your studies, okay? All right. So the next thing you want to do is check your assignments. So this requires you to maybe go into your learning platform, whether it's Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or whatever it is that your county has, your learning platform is for your school district. So check those assignments. You want to see, when is this assignment due? How many assignments are coming up that's due? All right. You also want to make sure that whatever assignments are due for that day are actually complete. and turned in. So we know that on Google Classroom, if you're using Google Classroom, if you don't hit that turn in button twice, then it's just sitting there. You've done it, but your teacher is not alerted that the assignment is actually done and completed. And sometimes you may be penalized for not doing an assignment that you actually did. So you want to make, this is a time for you to make sure that you have completed it and you've hit that submit button and turned it in. So you also want to check your platform for a rubric. So when you're looking at your assignments, was there a rubric that went along with that? Did you follow the rubric? Because you want to make sure that you're getting all of the points that you possibly can on this assignment. You also want to look for comments. So, and I don't know much about Microsoft Teams, but with Google Classroom, there is a section in your stream where you can leave comments and have dialogue with your teacher. So check those comments. Did they leave a message for you? You may also want to check your emails. So that is the way that you're communicating with your teacher. Did they forget something? Was there an assignment that maybe you forgot about? Did they post something late? Was there a resource? So always check your comments, check your stream, check for any last minute assignments that may be there, okay? You also, when you're checking your assignments and checking to see what's due and when it's due and those and all of that, check to see how many assignments are due in one day, because you don't want to find that you have 3 tests in one day or 3 major projects coming up in a week, because when you have something like that, it could cause you a lot of stress. So kind of see when things are due and if it's a heavy hitter so that you can plan your study time accordingly or ask for an extension. So just be aware of what's due and when. All right, remember your rights. So we talked about advocacy. You can't advocate for yourself or your student if you're not even aware of your rights. So teachers have a responsibility, right? So in addition to them teaching you and giving you assignments, they also have a responsibility to make sure that they return your work to you in a timely manner. It does not feel good to complete an assignment and you don't know how well you did on that assignment until 3 or 4 weeks later, until progress reports come out or it's time for report cards, because at that point it's too late. So they have a responsibility to get your work back to you in a timely manner. So find out what your district's policy is on returning work. In Prince George's County, teachers have to submit grades every week, 2 grades every week in their grade book. So if that means if they gave you an assignment on Tuesday, you should be looking for a grade on that assignment with comments, with feedback the following week. If not, it's okay to ask about that assignment. I'm just wondering how I did on that assignment, because if you didn't do well, your teacher has the responsibility to allow you to make up that assignment. So if you had a paper to do, you had an essay to write, that essay was it was supposed to be 3 or 4 paragraphs, and you thought you did well on it. In your mind, hey, I did a fantastic job. I did a phenomenal job on it. But when you got your paper back, you got a C or maybe a D, and you don't know why. So your teacher has to tell you what you did to earn the grade that you received, right? And so based on their comments, you can request to do that assignment again and make the corrections for a higher grade. The same applies for taking a test. If you took a test on a Friday, when you get that test back, if it's not the grade that you were expecting or that you wanted to receive, you can request to make up that assignment, to retake that test. Before they can allow you to retake that test, they have to reteach it. So you have to request it in writing, so that the next time you do that assignment, the next time you do that test, you are more successful. So teachers also have a responsibility to have office hours. Those office hours are for you. It's for you to go in to get the additional help that you need. Those office hours are there to support you. If you have any questions, if it's something that you didn't quite understand, if you need to retake that test, that's during the time that you want to be able to retake that test, is during their office hours, so that it's not interfering with the school day. Okay, so those are the responsibilities of your teacher. You also have responsibilities. The student and the parents. It's your responsibility to turn in your work on time. That's why you are checking your learning platform and you're checking your assignments and you're carving out that study time every day, because it's your responsibility to turn your work in on time, right? It's also your responsibility to check your grades. Now, here I said do it daily. Maybe you want to do it every other day, but you want to make sure that you are checking your grades, not only parents, but students as well, because this gives you an idea of how well you're doing before progress reports, before report cards, because when those grades come out, it's too late. So check your grades so that you have an idea of how well you're doing in the class. You also have the right to request a retake of tests, like I mentioned earlier, or also make up any work that you didn't do well on. Now, I have in bold in writing. Always make your request in writing. Send an email. And when you send your email, copy your parents on that email, okay? Teachers sometimes forget conversations that they have in class. So if you ask in class, can I redo this? Or you type it in the chat, can I retake this test? Can I redo this assignment? They may say yes and then forget about it, right? But if you send that request in writing, then they have to respond to you, and you have documentation that you did make that request, okay? It's also your responsibility to know your teacher's office hours, so that when you need help, you can go to them and ask them for that additional help that you need. All right. So now that you know your teacher's responsibilities and you know your responsibilities, that gives you an opportunity to advocate for yourself, okay? So here we're talking about students advocating for yourself. So as a student, you can ask to clarify directions. You get an assignment, you're not really sure what is the expectation. That's called advocating for yourself. Excuse me, I'm not sure, I'm not clear about what it is I'm supposed to do. How many paragraphs? Do we need to show our work for this math? Do I need to have sources? What are you looking for? Get those clarifying directions. Another thing, it's okay to ask, is this assignment for a grade? Or is it just for practice? Now, be clear that even though it's for practice, you're still required to do it, because it's giving you that extra help that you need, so that when you do get that assignment, you do well, okay? You get a good grade on that assignment, you get a good grade on that test, okay? So asking, is it for practice, does not mean you can skip out on it. It just means it's just not as important as a graded activity, okay? Another thing that you can ask for is a rubric. Anytime you are given an assignment, you can ask for a rubric, so that you have in writing how many points is attached to each question, to each part. So if you're writing a paragraph, if it's out of 100, are you getting 10 points because you have the 3 paragraphs, and then you're getting 10 more points because you have an opening and a closing? So you want to know how many points are assigned, so that when you're checking your work, you're checking it against that rubric. So when they return that work to you, they can return it with that rubric, and you know exactly where you made your mistake. It's also a conversation piece for you to say, how can I do better on this? Now I understand, okay? The other thing you can ask for is extra time. This gets a little tricky because when teachers are giving assignments, they're not thinking about all of the other assignments that you have. So if your history teacher and your science teacher and your reading teacher all are asking you to do a project that is due in 1 week, you might want to send an email to the three of them saying, I have all of these assignments that are due for your classes. I need a little bit of extra time. It's okay to ask for that time. They can either say yes or no. And when you ask for that extra time, what are you going to do? Copy your parents in the email. What are you going to do? Copy your parents in the email. Again, it gives you that extra layer of support, and it gives your parents an idea of what it is that you need help with. It lets them know that you're advocating for themselves, and it prepares them to advocate for you as well. The last thing, students, that you can ask for is help. You are not in this by yourself. You are still going through a learning process. And with your learning process, you don't have all the answers. It's not expected that you know everything. So if it's something that you don't know, it's okay to say, I need help. I need clarity. I don't have this yet. Please help. Okay? Ask your parents for help. Ask your teachers for help, but ask for help. And remember, if you are asking for help from your teacher, you want it to be in an email, in writing, so that everyone knows that when it comes down to it, you were struggling and you asked for help, and either that help was given or it wasn't. But you've covered yourself, you've advocated for yourself by asking for help. All right? Now, parents, as you are reviewing work, pay attention to how much work is being given to your student. It sometimes is too much. If you've noticed that three or four assignments are due and they're heavy assignments, is there a way to integrate those assignments? I'll give you an example. You have your student has a reading assignment and they have a social studies assignment. The reading assignment is analyzing how well they can construct paragraphs, while the social studies assignment may be assessing, they just want them to have more information on social justice. Maybe you send an email to those two teachers and say, hey, this social studies article is really good. My student is really interested in it. Can they write their paragraph in English for their English class based on this social studies article? Then that way, 2 assignments is knocked out in one. All they can do is say no. I have allowed my students to do that. So there are teachers out there who are flexible, as long as it fits in the parameters of what it is of the skill that they are trying to assess and trying to teach, okay? The other thing, parents, read the dialogue and the comments that are going between your student and the teacher so that you are in the loop. Okay, because you may find that's where you'll find where your student is struggling, where they're successful, what they're doing well, what they need extra help with. And then that way you can contact the teacher and say, I noticed that, they've been struggling with maybe capitalization or providing more details. What can I do to support them in this area? Okay. Also, when you see that your student is sending emails and copying you on those emails, ask them 2 or 3 days later, did you get an answer? Because sometimes teachers will not, sometimes teachers won't reply all, they'll just reply to the student. So your student may have gotten the answer to their question, but you don't know. So just ask them about it. If they have not received an answer, then it's time for you to step in and send a follow-up email asking, my student asked this, where are we in that process? And if you don't hear from them, then you send another email and copy administrators. You will be surprised at how quickly teachers respond when they see that an administrator is copied on an email, okay? The last thing I want to parents, pay attention to your child's affect, because our students are sometimes silently going through. They're silently struggling. Are they sleeping a lot? Are they withdrawing from some of their friends, just kind of not going outside a lot of times? Get them to talk to you. Get them to talk to you so you find out what's going on in their head so that you can give them the extra support that they need. Okay. And just to finish it all up, just remember that this is all about teamwork. The teacher, the student, and the family are all there to support each other. The only way to get through this is to make sure that there's an open line of communication so that everyone is in the loop and everyone knows what's going on and when. You can get through this fourth quarter. You made it through 3 quarters, and here we are at the end. You can be successful. All right. Thank you.